things have gone final in La La Land. It was a dream finish for the Rams, who caught a couple breaks here, made a couple plays there, and ended up 10 points better than the Seattle Seahawks. They are now double-digit wins, trying to 10-4 on the season. LA now tied atop the conference with Arizona. Arizona does possess the tiebreaker due to in-division schedule and record. So the Rams still, via the tiebreaker, second, but nipping at the heels of an Arizona team headed the opposite way. All right, let's get our guys in the mix. We say hello to the five-time NFL Executive of the Year, Scott Pioli, and our draft analyst, Ryan Wilson. Guys, it wasn't the cleanest game, but maybe we shouldn't have expected that on a Tuesday night in the NFL in Week 15. Scott, I'll go your way first here. Your initial reaction to the outcome is what?
Well, first of all, what came before the outcome was how sloppy the play was on both sides of the ball. And we've been keeping an eye on the other game. The games are sloppy today. They were sloppy last night. This whole COVID thing is taking its toll on the quality of play. But talking about this specific game, to me, where the game changed was on the holding call against Bless Austin, where he was holding Cooper Kupp allegedly, and as we saw the replay over and over, it wasn't even close. The game completely shifted at that point, Joey, because it was 3rd and 10. They get off the field, and then the Rams should be punting from their own 15, but that's wiped out. Automatic first down takes the wind out of the Seattle Seahawks, and it's 10-10 at this point in time. And then the Rams continue to chunk down the field. So that was a critical call. And then again, Seattle gets hit with, well, they don't get the pass interference call. There was a blatant call that should have been in their favor. This has been not only sloppy from a player standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, but from an officiating standpoint. That's what's standing out to me right now, Joe.
And we saw some of that in prime time a night ago as well in that Bears-Vikings matchup. The officiating needing to rise to the moment just as well, because games are being decided by these calls, and games are shifting in a single moment, as you pointed out there. Ryan, as you take stock, what's your headline coming out of this one?
It shouldn't be the officiating, Joe, but it sort of is, and that's been a recurring theme throughout the season, and it feels like something that we need to get away from. But Scott also touched on the football hasn't been great, and you can blame the officials for certain calls that certainly had some impact, on the game. But at the end of the day, and this was my fear coming into this week, after seeing Russ come back from that finger injury that sidelined him for a few weeks, he's not the same Russ Wilson. And we knew he wasn't happy in the offseason because he wanted some upgrades, particularly on the offensive line. And this team is just not a good football team. And Russ hasn't been able, at less than 100%, to carry this team. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me on the Seattle side of the ball. I think the other takeaway is that Cooper Kupp, he might be okay. And here's a little fun fact as a draft guy. Cooper ran a 4.62 at the Combine, and we shouldn't get too caught up in how fast guys run, because at the end of the day, Cooper Kupp is always open. And here's a fun fact from Hayden Winks on Twitter. Cooper has averaged more yards per game this season, about 115, than he did his senior year of high school, where he had 107. That's how good he's been playing. And look, a wide receiver's not going to win MVP, but we should legitimately talk about him.
Yeah, we got to continue to situate this historically, because he is making history, popping up on lists with guys like Isaac Bruce, Jerry Rice, that 2014 season by Antonio Brown. This is rarefied air that we're seeing out of Kupp. And here, 9 receptions for $136, 2 touchdowns. There you see some of the numbers. He's going for 120-plus receptions, 1,500-plus yards, 12-plus touchdowns with 3 games to play. These numbers could continue to balloon for Kupp. Defenses know this is coming. They know that the offense runs through number 10, Scott. What makes Kupp so effective, despite the fact that the guy across the line from him knows what's coming?
Ryan brought up a great point. When he was coming out, he ran only a 4.62. However, what he had put on tape was 4 straight seasons as an All-American at what was, I think at that time it was still called the 1AA level, which is the FCS level. And he's a 4-time All-American. He was a first-team All-American as a true freshman. All he did was catch the ball and produce nonstop 4 years in a row. And to me, this is what's so interesting when people get so seduced by numbers and vertical jumps and speeds and shuttles, and those things are important. But what Cooper Kupp can do is he has the ability to separate. He doesn't have great straight line speed, but he's fast enough. He has competitive playing speed. He plays up to the speed that he needs to. And part of that is he creates separation because of his quickness, because of the detail of his route running. He uses his size. To me, a very important lesson I learned when I was a scout, because I was a lineman and I didn't know a lot about the skill positions when I first got into the scouting job. But a very good scout told me that the most important thing is, how does the receiver get open? It doesn't matter how fast he is. How can he create separation? And does he have a quarterback that can get it on him in those moments of separation? Cooper Kupp can create separation. And the other thing he has is fantastic run after the catch. So to me, Cooper Kupp is a guy that so many people in the league missed on. And a lot of it had to do with the fact that they were all looking at that 4.62, and he's a guy who just plays faster than 4.62.
And I think we saw the antithesis of that on the same field in the form of DK Metcalf, who has all the measurables. Really looks like the physical freak that you want your wide receiver to be. But then he goes out there and he seems a little one track in the way that he can get open, just trying to use that physicality. But again, another great game by Cooper Kupp. Ryan, as you take stock of the season that was, or the season that is, pardon me, it continues to be breathtaking. I mean, we're running out of superlatives here for Cooper Kupp. What struck you about the way that he's accomplishing these feats?
Breathtaking, great hair, great beard, handsome. And Scott touched on why he's so good, but we forget when you're watching at home, he's not 5'10". He's not Wes Welker in terms of how tall he is. He's a big target. And that helps as well. He looks like Joe Musso playing D3 football out there. You just can't guard him with your short, your 5'8" safety. You got to get a big guy on him. And I think the other thing is, and you talk about DK Metcalf, and that's an important point. That is a big, fast, strong man. No Tyler Lockett. DK sort of faded into the background. Yes, Russ didn't play great. We can agree on that. But the thing about Cooper Kupp, he reminds me in that sense of Davante Adams, because there are two people in Green Bay that throw the ball, that are in the passing game. Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, and that's it. Defenses know it, and they have no answers, just like Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford in Los Angeles. So I will ask you this, Joe, and maybe it's rhetorical, but you're starting to hear some buzz that maybe Matthew Stafford is basically Jared Goff with a good PR team, because I think he's been better than that. But he hasn't been lights out better than that, and not as good as we all expected once he arrived in Los Angeles over the summer.
Yeah, it looked great over the last 2 weeks and sort of felt like a bit of a regression here. First half, tries to hit a whole ball that he just didn't drive in there on time. Made a couple interesting decisions in the second half. He was pressured throughout the night as well, but that's sort of where I want to take the conversation here next, guys, because you mentioned Green Bay. And I want to know, in your eyes, Scott, how does LA match up against those types of teams? You got an Arizona squad that seems to be headed the wrong direction, suffering a couple losses, questionable result there against the Lions. Yes, the Cowboys look like a good team out in the NFC. Green Bay likely, unless somebody goes and takes it from them, will be the top overall seed. Where does LA situate right now, and where do they need to be better if they want to be in that same conversation as, let's say, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers?
Well, everyone, when we talk about the Packers, talks about Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, who are superb players. But to me, one of the differences this year with the Green Bay Packers is their running back duo of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. The production they're getting out of those two players as backs, not only in the running game, but in the passing game, they are putting a lot of yards of production out there. So to me, I have a little bit of concern on how the Los Angeles Rams defense is going to match up with their 1-2 punch in terms of the backs. Because, you know, when you look at Jalen Ramsey, he can maybe match up with Davante Adams. He may be able to mitigate that explosion. So to me, I think the key is going to be when if and when the Packers play the Rams in the playoffs, it's going to be about the running backs and how they match up in that space.
Yeah, we'll see what Hollywood looks like there in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin in the dead of winter. If it does come to that, it'll be interesting theater, no doubt. Ryan, I do want to talk to you as our draft analyst here. Sort of a fork in the road right now for Seattle. You got a team that's not playing well, just got wrapped up. It will guarantee the first losing season in the career of Russell Wilson. Coming into the season, he's already putting feelers out there, kind of toying with the idea of playing elsewhere. Do you think that this is a Seattle team that's going to be looking at the quarterback position when it comes to the draft this next year?
They might be, but it won't be with their first-round pick because that went to the Jets for Jamal Adams. So that's something you have to consider. Now, if you move on from Russ, you'll get some draft compensation in exchange for sure, likely in the form of multiple first-round picks. And in that maybe you try to figure out a plan B in life after Russ. But if I'm the GM, and I wonder how Scott feels about this, if I'm John Schneider, I'm trying everything possible to keep Russ Wilson, because you're not going to find Russell Wilson with a first-round pick or multiple first-round picks as some sort of exchange. It's not going to be a fair trade, even if it works out on whatever draft value chart you're using. So Russ may want to be somewhere else, and ultimately he may get his wish. But the Seahawks are going to be worse for it in a division that's already incredibly tough, where you have to have a franchise quarterback, and they'll be starting over from scratch. Now, maybe they find Kirk Cousins or Jimmy Garoppolo, if that happens, some intra-division trade, whatever. But whatever they get, unless it's Aaron Rodgers, is going to be considerably less than what they had in Russ Wilson.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how Seattle, the decision makers, proceed. But in terms of that conversation within the division, guys, 10-4 is the watermark. Arizona and LA both at that mark. Arizona does still possess the better in-division record, so they do remain the top overall seed, but those are ships passing in the night, and one's headed the wrong way. Who do you give the edge in this division right now, Scott?
Well, to me, I don't. It's a coin flip, because both teams have been so wildly inconsistent, both Arizona and the Rams, and depending on the week, you don't know what you're going to get. But it seems like, until tonight, it seems like the Rams were starting to trend upwards to a degree. Now, the Cardinals, on the other hand, have been trending in the opposite direction. So if I'm looking at those two teams in that vacuum, I'm thinking that it's more the Rams. But again, I haven't seen enough of the Rams to think that they're going to be that deep into the playoffs. You know, one of the other things I just want to talk about tonight with the quarterback situation, they did not have any live reps this past week in terms of practice, getting ready for this game. They had to do walkthroughs all week. So to me, that had a lot to do with Matthew Stafford, and I think things being off kilter for them.
Yeah, I'm with Scott. It is so incredibly difficult to figure out what's going on with the Rams, with the Cardinals. Name a team, and that pretty much fits. The Ravens, the Packers, you could go down the list, and it's really confusing. And in that sense, it's been an incredibly fun season to watch unfold. That said, I have more confidence right now as we sit here in the Rams than the Cardinals. Halfway through the season, when the Cardinals were balling out, undefeated on the road, I said, I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury is a great coach, but I do know he's not getting in the way of Kyler Murray. I still don't think he's getting in the way of Kyler Murray, but Kyler's been banged up. He missed some time. Colt McCoy came in and went 2-1 in his absence. And since he's returned, it hasn't been quite the same. Perhaps some of that's Dre Hopkins, but he has a ton of other receivers that he's been leaning on, even when Dre Hopkins hasn't been the primary guy. The Rams, I feel like in some sense, Joe, they're sort of like the Buccaneers last year. Matthew Stafford's finding his way through the Sean McVay offense. I think it's going to start to click. He's only got 3 weeks left in the regular season, so he's got to hurry and figure it out. But I think once it does, it'll look like that offense that Sean McVay envisioned when he made the move for Matthew Stafford. And they hope to do exactly what the Bucs did a season ago, host a Super Bowl at home and win that darn thing. Gentlemen, fantastic stuff as always. We appreciate the insight. All right, here's a look at the division. NFC West, 10-4 is your top mark. Rams and Cardinals deadlocked again. The tiebreaker currently belongs to the Cardinals, who have a better record in the division. But with 3 games to go, the Rams heading the right direction, and the Cardinals coming off a loss to the...
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.